III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Today is Tuesday, May 6, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Trump administration's planning to dismantle the key Smithsonian museums, including the National Museum of African American History and Culture, is sparking outrage. CBC members are not staying quiet. We'll talk with Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett gets in the GOP's ass about them coming after Black history, Medicaid, and jobs. You don't want to miss tonight's Crocket Chronicles. The Pentagon orders deep cuts to top military brass. They want to cut the number of four-star generals. What does that mean for Black leaders? Plus, the EPA moves to eliminate the Energy Star program, threatening energy savings for millions of Americans. I told y'all they don't care about regular, ordinary people. And the late Chuck Stone, my alpha brother, a trailblazing journalist, educator, also former editor of the Chicago Defender and a former president and co-founder the National Association of Black Journalists, posthumously awarded a special Pulitzer Prize. We'll tell you all about that. That and more. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
We all know Donald Trump is an idiot. Now, we know that man didn't spend any time going to museums as a child because he literally is one of the dumbest people ever to occupy the Oval Office. Now, one of the things that you're seeing the attacks on the arts. He's completely taken over the Kennedy Center, changing how they do business, saying that, oh, they should be recognizing different people. You know what that means. It's going to be a whole bunch of country artists and, of course, Trump ass-kissers who he's going to be recognizing. Then, of course, we see now he wants to make cuts. They want to stop National Medal of the Arts, the humanities, and we go on and on and on. And then the attack on the Smithsonian. All of this is happening because this is what dictators do. They attack the culture icons. They attack education. Don't want people learning. They attack culture. Joining us right now, Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Glad to have you back on the show. I mean, look, this is right out of the authoritarian dictator playbook. You attack the cultural institutions because you need people to remain ignorant.
Absolutely, Roland. Those are the actions of a dictator that pushes lies and propaganda. The reason why they're anti-woke is because they want a citizenry that is asleep, that is ignorant and uninformed, that is indifferent to the suffering of their neighbors, and that is inactive. And that's why the only way that we can beat a dictator is with defiance. We have to resist and reject at every turn and not accept this draconian, white supremacist, dystopian view of Donald Trump's America. And that's why myself, Congressman Tonko, who chairs the Museum Caucus for the House, it is why we've partnered together in demanding the Inspector General let us know exactly what would be the impact of Donald Trump's executive order, which means to defund and dismantle our cultural institutions and in the name of anything that is race-centered or divisive. I mean, just does not want an accurate telling of history. And so some 70 members of our caucus have signed that letter with me. This is one of the few inspector generals that has not been fired, Roland. You know, they are statutorily obligated to respond to Congress. And so we're demanding answers because the Smithsonian was established in the 1800s to be independent and to be nonpartisan. So this flies in the face of its mission. And again, its attack on Black folks and our history, unsurprising because Donald Trump is anti-Blackness on steroids. And Roland, something I know you'll appreciate that I found most alarming in the executive order is that it says that race is biology, that it is not a social construct. And that is actually the belief system of the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, I mean, it's no shock at all when you look at in terms of what they're doing. And all of this is directly out of the playbook of Project 2025, which we tried to warn people, and people kind of like, oh man, y'all making too big of a deal about this. And it's like, well, it's right in front of you. This is what they're doing. They want to destroy all of these institutions because they want to establish this as an ultra right-wing extremist conservative nation.
That's right. And Roland, people may not appreciate that not only is this a direct assault on Black history, not only do they not want a history being taught that tells people how to overcome domestic terrorism, of the Ku Klux Klan, of a weaponized government, of how to overcome oppression. But this is not only an attack on our Smithsonians and our Blacksonian here in Washington, D.C. There are some 200 affiliates throughout the country that benefit from the technical support of shared exhibits and of funding throughout our country. So it's not just about our Smithsonians here. It stands to have an impact to some 200 affiliates throughout the country. And moreover, it is an attack on the future of the American Latino Museum and the Women's Museum, both things that Congress has been working on for quite some time.
The thing that I think people need to also understand that we're seeing here is what they also want is they want to go back to the original white man's version of what American history is. They don't want the record to be corrected. They want those lies to continue to be promoted. And I keep telling people, all of this came to a head 5 years ago with the murder of George Floyd. That sparked what I and others were calling a third Reconstruction, and that was anger. So therefore, they attacked Black Lives Matter in 2021. They attacked critical race theory in 2022. They attacked woke in 2023.
Right.
They attacked DEI in 2024.
Right.
And so this is what they're saying. They do not want a true, accurate telling of American history. They still want his story to prevail. And what Donald Trump will do is literally order changes to these museums to tell that fake white man's American history.
That's right. And very consistent with someone who seeks to make America Jim Crow again. And, you know, this is an anti-freedom agenda. This administration, this hostile administration in the midst of this hostile government takeover, they mean to control what books we read. They mean to control our museums. They mean to control what we do with our very bodies. This is an anti-freedom agenda, and it's an attack on the freedom to learn. You know, something as basic and fundamental as that. So we're demanding answers from one of the few inspector generals that's still standing. They are accountable to Congress. And again, we're looking at in every way that we can get transparency and better understand how will the Smithsonian continue its mission and what will be the impacts of this executive order on the Smithsonians here, the Smithsonians that were in the pipeline, and again, for those 200 affiliates. But, you know, what I'm most focused on is that Blacksonian in the midst of this, period of an emboldened white supremacy and anti-Blackness on steroids.
Look, this happened today. Go to my iPad. A judge blocks Trump from shuttering federal agency that funds museum and libraries. And of course, U.S. District Judge John McConnell in Providence, Rhode Island, agreed with 21 mostly Democrat-led states that Trump's March executive order directing that the agencies effectively be wiped out violated the U.S. Constitution. He said, quote, "This executive order ignores the unshakable principles that Congress makes the law and appropriates funds, and the executive implements the law Congress enacted and spends the funds Congress appropriated," wrote McConnell, who was appointed by former President Barack Obama. This is the thing here. Republicans are silent. They are letting this thug do whatever he wants to do. And what Donald Trump is suggesting is that members of Congress, the 435 in the House, the 100 in the Senate, y'all don't get to do a damn thing. He wants to be the king, the dictator. All power rests with him. And this is critically important because a lot of people, and I guarantee you, you've been hearing this. You know what? We need to be careful how we play this. We need to be very gentle because, you know, this can make him mad. Listen, this thug will do what a thug does. We have to be responding with a fierce sense of urgency and hitting him with everything. And that means what members of Congress do. That means protests. That means lawsuits, everything, because you cannot give this thug an inch.
Absolutely not. Like I said, he's the dictator. The only way to beat a dictator is with defiance. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, MAGA is a cult, but it's a movement. And, you know, I was talking to President Morial about this earlier today. The only way to beat a movement is with a movement. So, yes, this is on members of Congress to, in our defensive strategy, to litigate, to legislate, to agitate, to mobilize, to be exhaustive. Because, Roland, I don't believe that this is just about how do we weather the next 4 years. I believe this will shape and determine the next 100 years. Yeah. So everyone has to give a damn about this. And I need everybody, you know, to reach out to their members of Congress and ask them, I'm just appealing to people of conscience. Do you want an accurate telling of history? This is an attack on the freedom to learn. This is an attack on the accurate telling of history, of our intellectual freedoms. And again, it flies in the face of the original mission of the Smithsonian to be nonpartisan and independent. And here's Donald Trump saying, I don't want anything that's race-centered, when everything that he does is centered on identity and race, but nothing that's race-centered or divisive. And that could certainly define what this administration is and what they're about in every single way. So we need everybody. I'm glad you made the point that this is a 100-year battle. I mean, that's literally what I wrote in my book, White Fear. I said, this is a war. This is not about the next election. They want to lock in this. They want to seize the power, and they want to destroy these institutions, and they want to lock this in for the next 50 to 100 years. And so what we are doing is today we are literally countering these actions for the benefit of our children's children's children. That's right. That's right. And the thing is, you know, Roland, one of the things that gets on my nerve is that whenever Democrats in the minority, people will say, well, are you open to bipartisanship? I'm like, where's the party to be bipartisan with? This is a cult of cowards that have been complicit in the wholesale harm of our people. And ain't nobody ever asking them to be bipartisan. No one ever never asked that question. That's why I didn't even like you a vice president. They never asked that. And then in our committee hearings, in the midst of this budget reconciliation, they have been silent. You know, they are not, you know how this process works. You know, we're supposed to fight for, each side is supposed to vigorously defend what they're fighting for, what they want to see preserved, why they think something needs to be eliminated. And they have been silent. They are just, Republicans in the House have ceded all of their power and authority. And Donald Trump not only does he not like to read, he clearly has never had a civics lesson because he doesn't understand separation of powers, co-equal branches of government, that Congress controls the power of the purse. Again, they want a citizenry that is ignorant and uninformed. And that's why I'm so grateful for you, Roland, because you're making sure that people do have the information. And just even a free press, a free black press in this moment is probably one of the most radical things. So we're grateful for you. Well, absolutely. In the spirit of William Monroe Trotter, who was thrown out of the White House by that racist president, Woodrow Wilson, because he dared to challenge him to his face. This is what the moment requires. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Folks, I was just referencing that judge's ruling regarding museums, but it's not just museums. If you actually go back to my iPad, it says the judge halted Trump's order from being implemented at the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Minority Business Development Agency,
and the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service pending the outcome of the case. I want to bring in my panel, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA out of D.C. Randy Bryant, entrepreneur, author of Never Says, 25 Phrases You Should Never Ever Say to Keep Your Job and Friends, out of D.C. A. Scott Bolden, he's an attorney, and also, of course, worked with PACs with the National Bar Association and others. Out of D.C. Let's get right to it here. That particular point that I'm making right there, Mustafa, because Trump, again, was lying last time he was there, and he's got all these Simple Simon Negroes running behind him, but they talk about, what Trump is going to do for black folks in economics. He wants to get rid of the Minority Business Development Agency. And so this judicial ruling really is critical.
Yeah, it's powerful, and I look forward to actually reading it. You know, it is interesting because he understands that when you have these entities in place, you know, that are focusing on minority businesses, and of course, I know folks will break down what that actually looks like, but it does also benefit black contractors and subcontractors, and helps to build wealth for those individuals. I know a number of folks who have businesses in the federal contracting space, and who have been able to make sure that they also gave others, other black folks and other folks, an opportunity to learn, to garner skills, and then to go on and start their own businesses. So it's incredibly important what this judge has done to make sure that he or she, I'm not sure which one they were, said that this has to halt and that you can't proceed in this particular moment. So it's exciting to hear that folks are continuing. Every time it almost seems like when we go to the courts, folks end up winning in relationship to some of these things that the Trump administration has been doing to harm communities and to harm businesses and to harm the country as a whole when you look at the real economics that are going on. So I'm excited to hear how that all turned out.
Well, Scott, here's the thing, though, because what the thugs in the White House are focused on, they don't give a damn about any district court judges or appellate judges. In their minds, every single case filed is going to be determined by the Supreme Court, and from their position is they're going to always rule in their favor. And so that's the position that they have taken. Scott, you're on mute. Yeah, hit the button, Kappa. Now talk. Nope, you still muted. All right, let's go to Randy as Scott tries to figure out what he's doing. Randy, y'all to walk Scott through it because Scott, we got you muted on our end. Randy, go ahead.
You're right. I mean, one thing we have to give them credit for is that they've been very strategic. So they stack the Supreme Court, you know, and they make decisions that are absolutely going to support Trump and what his cronies of cowards want. And what they want, very clearly, it was laid out in Project 2025, as you said, is to really ensure that white supremacy continues to reign strongly. And they're doing things to ensure that Black people do not have a chance of making it in America. The small concessions that we were given that considered race and really considered clearly our history and accurately our history, they're wiping out. That's why they don't want us to know our history, because if you knew the history, if you understood, you know, our legacy starting from being enslaved through Jim Crow and the Civil Rights Movement, it would be very clear that, of course, there needed to be some programs in place to help us to build wealth and to educate our children and to have health care and things. But they're wiping those things out so they can set us back a full century. I agree. When you said what you said about they're sending us back 100 years, and this is not about right now, or it's not about the next 4 years. It really is about ensuring that we do not slide back to where we were over 100 years ago. You are absolutely right, because they are attacking all the programs that people fought so hard to put in place to help us gain footing in this country.
All right, Scott, you ready now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, I wasn't on mute. But let me just say this, Mustafa, don't get too excited, brother, because the win is short, but it's about the long game. Expanding the executive power, this is exactly what the Republicans want, I think, as Roland said earlier with Ayanna Pressley. Because ultimately they want to get to the Supreme Court. You'll see the Supreme Court rule that they can legally ban transgender people or ban them from the military, which is a huge decision and goes counter to everything we know within the Constitution of fairness and equity and justice. So there's hope at the Supreme Court. So they're just going through this process. It's really demoralizing, especially as a lawyer, because you don't have anywhere when the government is controlled by the Republicans like this in three branches of government. Where do you go for relief? You fight on the streets, you fight with the inspector generals, you fight to protect yourself, but with an inactive and immoral Republican delegation in both the Senate and the House and the White House, where do you go for some relief? The Article 3 courts, District Court and Court of Appeals, are doing their job, even those appointed by Trump. But when they get to the Supreme Court with that 6-3, they got a shot. And you're going to see the reversal, and many of them have been reversed, of these decisions to wipe out Black history, DEI, keep transgendered people out of the military, which are just far-right positions, right? You watch when the museums get to the Supreme Court, if you will. That 6-3 majority is going to have a field day with it, and there's not a whole lot legally and power-wise, what we can do. It is about getting the House back. It is about waiting out these 4 years, and it is about getting organized so that this will be a 4-year hell as opposed to longer. Because MAGAism is about Trump. And if he goes, I just don't think the power of MAGA transfers to anybody else.
Nope, I disagree.
What they do in these 4 years.
I disagree, and I believe that has been the mistake the Democrats have made going back to Hillary Clinton in 2016. Mustafa, in 2016, Hillary Clinton. No, let me walk you through. In 2016, Hillary Clinton tried to isolate MAGA and Trump from the Republican Party. Others were like, that's stupid. They're the same. 2020, Biden tried the exact same thing. He kept saying, I win, Trump is gone, Mitch McConnell, Republicans, they're going to return back to the Republican Party that we knew. No, the reality is MAGA is the Republican Party. There is no such thing now as MAGA and the Republican Party. They're now the same. You must treat it the same. And what you're seeing is you're seeing people finally wake up and fight what's going on. Mustafa, a lot of folks did not pay attention, but over the weekend, there were significant changes to elections in North Texas, in Dallas-Fort Worth area. MAGA Republicans lost crucial mayoral races, school board races, all across the area. People are indeed responding, and that is what needs to continue to happen. People need to realize if you sit on your ass and not vote, they're going to win. And I think the actions that they're taking are going to have a true get out the vote effort, but more of that needs to happen.
No, I agree. There is awakening that's happening, at least in all the people that I talk to around the country. You know, some of the folks who maybe sat on the couch, other folks who weren't sure who to give their vote to after they've seen some of this stuff play out. It shouldn't have taken this, but it did. And now folks are having a better understanding that they've got to get engaged, that they've got to stand up, that they've got to push back because they've seen what these folks are trying to do. And I agree with you. This is not something that is recent. This has been put in place. You know, they've been working on many of these things. We often talk about Project 2025, Agenda 47, all these other types of things. You know, there are very powerful individuals who have been financing, who have been utilizing these think tanks to begin to actually get this foundation that they're trying to build, you know, in place. So we just need to be aware. But again, it is about the power of the people. You know, sometimes that sounds cliche-ish, but it really is. If we look at all the social movements that have happened inside this country, it's happened because, you know, everyday folks decided that they didn't, you know, they've had enough and that they were going to stand up, even if they were in danger. So, you know, one, we've got to make sure that we're protecting each other, that we're lifting each other up, but we've also going to have to utilize, you know, the power of our voices, our bodies, and all the other tools that we have. And then, of course, Scott's the expert there. You know, I've done my time in relationship to the courts and some legal things, but I still also, you know, see some solace that exist inside of the court system to a degree, but you have to balance that out with the power of the people, and you have to let folks know that you're not playing, and that you're going to show up, you know, in the midterms and in 2028 and in every other one of these elections that happened across the country between now and then.
Yeah, but Roland, hold on.
I'm coming to you, Scott. Just hold on. Randy, this is what I was just talking about. Go to my iPad. In Texas, Fort Bend School Board, one of the largest in the state, conservatives lost 2 critical school board seats they held there. The board adopted one of the most strictest book banning policies in Texas, 5-2. They've lost critical votes. Katy School Board, they ousted the ultra-conservative board president. In Grapevine Colleyville School Board, they ousted a conservative school board member there. In Mansfield, Texas, they ousted 3 conservative members of their local school board. All of these things, these were elections that took place on Saturday night. And again, I believe that what people need to understand, you keep hearing me, I keep saying this, we must be in a period of educate, enlighten, and inform. People are not aware of what's going on. I believe that if we spend the next 6-8 months doing that, folks are primed to vote in primaries come 2026, and then you're going to see them respond in the House and Senate races. But people can't wait until May of next year or September of next year to start the process. It must happen now. And every single time Republicans / MAGA, whatever you want to call them, when they overreach and act a fool, we must pound, so people know what these thugs are trying to do on the local level with school boards and city councils and county commissioners. In Tarrant County, they're trying to redraw the lines to screw the 2 black members on the Tarrant County Commissioners Court, even though they already have a majority. That's the kind of nonsense that they're trying to pull.
Okay, but that's...
No, Scott, hold on. I'm going to Randy. Then I'm coming to you. Randy, I addressed that question to you.
We must aggressively resist through all sorts of channels, just as you're saying. And I believe, you know, what you're saying about people thinking that it was about Trump directly, and they're realizing now that MAGA is not Trump. MAGA is the Republicans. That has been a wake-up call. We oftentimes talk about on the show the FAFO, you know, they fucked around and found out. I believe there's been a realization that it hasn't just been that white supremacy isn't just about suppressing and oppressing white people. It is affecting the everyday person. It's affecting the white farmer. It is affecting the person with a trans child. It's affecting LGBTQIA. It's affecting the person with disabilities. It's affecting veterans. It's affecting government workers. It's affecting everybody, because white supremacy is about heterosexual white men and keeping them in power. And so as people are having that realization, because I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of people were okay with Project 2025 and okay with Trump and his shenanigans because they did not think it would affect them. And they are now realizing that their lives are affected. It's going to affect and hurt the majority of Americans. And so they are getting out there and showing up at the polls in these what we at one time would call smaller elections. And we need to continue to do that. We need to show up at these elections and start running our school boards, start running our districts and counties. It's so important because it's what they did. You know, it's what they did. And we have to counteract and take control and win at every level because we must resist.
All right, Scott, go ahead.
Got it. Agree with everything everybody has said in the last 5 or 10 minutes. Except one problem. That's only half the issue. The other half, Trump is polling at 36%. You know what the Democrats are polling at? 30.
That means nothing.
The economy, let me finish my point.
That means nothing.
you got to give them an alternative. You got to give the voters, the Democrats got to get their own shit together.
Yes.
And right now, they're polling at 30%.
Okay, but Scott, you're doing what Scott, what you're doing is you're making the classic Washington you're making the classic. Okay, you're gonna finish your point, and I'm gonna show you how you're making the classic DC New York mistake. But go ahead.
I learn something from you every time I'm on the show.
You're gonna learn more today.
Okay, let's go. Now, if you're polling at 30%, you still got to give them a reason to vote for you, to get up off their couch. And today, the Democrats, in my opinion, don't have a strategic plan for pushing back because they don't have the power. And so you got to win elections. Elections matter. Why aren't Democrats and independents voting for Democrats? Because they don't feel connected to the Democrats. And what's the Democratic game plan to get people out to vote, let alone getting back those independents that went for Reagan? They voted for chaos and corruption and criminality over a prosecutor and human decency. My goodness, they must be really angry and really upset and really lost and hopeless to vote for the Republicans and getting what they're getting, including a worse economy than they had under Biden. So what's the answer to that? Hey, tell me that part, because you still got to give them an alternative to the Republicans, or they're going to go back and vote for somebody who they like that fights, even though he's a disaster.
Are you ready now to be educated?
I really am. I want to know, and I want a thoughtful answer.
Okay.
That's the second half of the
No. You trust me. No. You're gonna get a thoughtful answer. And again, if you've been paying attention to this show and not the other nonsensical shows of white national media, you will understand what I'm talking about here. So let me walk you through what's going on here. Now, go to my iPad, folks. What you see right here in red, that's May 6th. What you see right here is November 2025, okay? But the reality is this here. The reality is, if I look at this map and I look at a year, look how much time we have from November 3rd, 2026. See this? 2026. So let's just count months. We got 3, 7. We have 7 months left in 2025. Then we have another 8 months in 2026. That's 15 months before the midterm elections. Now, the polling data that Scott just cited, that's national polling data. Those are national polls. What they're talking about are national polls in terms of how they view Republicans and Trump and Democrats. The point that I'm making and why that's irrelevant, Scott, and why you should not use that talking point, you must throw it out, is this. What did I just say? The way to respond to what is happening is when people actually vote. Back to my iPad. I just showed you in elections in Texas where conservatives ran. We know that school boards typically are the lowest turnout elections. We also know that when people are trying to launch movements, they go after low-hanging fruit, which are school boards. Here we have examples in Fort Bend County, Texas. That's outside of Houston. We have examples in areas in Dallas-Fort Worth, all across where conservatives lost elections. Now, that's just elections in Texas. Now, let's talk about what happened in Iowa. In Iowa, there was a special election, okay, in April. What happened? Democrats won that special election, where the first Latina got elected there. Now, let's now go to Pennsylvania. Democrats narrowly won a Pennsylvania Senate seat, and it was a Republican-leaning district. So, results show you that when you begin to look at where you have competitive races, not hardcore red districts, not hardcore blue districts, what you're seeing is you are seeing how Democrats, progressives, liberals are responding in actual voting. So the poll you're talking about, again, If you're National Democrats, you got 15 months before the election takes place. The reality is that people are saying, I want to see Democrats do something. First of all, you've got limited power on the House side because of how the rules are set up. One of the things that Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries is trying to do, he is trying to corner these Republicans into having to vote against critical bills. That's one of the reasons why you have Republicans who are holding back in supporting the Trump budget bill, because there are about 18 Republicans who are in, frankly, purple districts. Republicans only have a 3-seat majority, all right? So that's what's happening right now. I believe the Republicans are going to maintain control of the United States Senate because the map favors them in the races that are running. Right. But guess what? Right. They just had a huge loss yesterday when Governor Brian Kemp announced he was not going to run for the United States Senate in Georgia. Okay, so that's one of their huge targets. Senator John Ossoff is running for re-election. Right. Then you've got Senator Tom Tillis, who has been casting a lot of votes kissing Trump's ass. But here you got Trump turning down hurricane relief in North Carolina and screwing those people. You've got Senator Chuck Schumer, who's trying to recruit former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper to run for the United States Senate in North Carolina. Now, they were hoping that Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear was going to run for the United States Senate in Kentucky, but he's likely going to run for president in 2028. You also have another election coming up for a new 6-year term. Will former U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown run for the Senate again in Ohio? You also have a Louisiana Senate seat coming up. You got John Bel Edward, who was a Democrat governor who served 2 terms. Will he run for the United States Senate? The point I'm making is, while Trump and MAGA are doing these crazy things and the economy is tanking, stock market is dropping, inflation has gone up, people are losing their 401ks, egg prices have not gone down, gas prices have not gone down, what you then do is you let these people keep screwing this thing up. Now, must you present an agenda for people? Yes. But that's in 2026. What must happen in 2025? You focus on local elections and you win. There's a mayoral race that's happening in New Orleans in September. 4 constitutional amendments, MAGA constitutional amendments, were defeated in Louisiana. Black voters were huge. You also have, in November, you've got Winsome Sears, a MAGA Republican lieutenant governor, running for governor, black woman, against Spanberger. Guess what? Virginia. If Democrats win the governor's mansion and if they control the House, Don Scott remains the black Speaker of the House in Virginia. Louise Lucas controls the money in the Senate. And more importantly, they then get to advance a bill that will be passed and signed into law that ends felony disenfranchisement in Virginia. You got a new governor's race in New Jersey. So here's the thing I'm saying, Scott. Fuck 2026 and focus on 2025. If you win races in 2025, you build the momentum for 2026.
Hey, I got no problem with that. The elections in North Texas, which is what the basis of all of this was, at least the original narrative, was anecdotal, and I simply did not think that was enough. Now, your counter to that is a good argument.
Of course it is.
Hope springs eternal. Hope springs eternal.
No, it's not. Okay? It's not a hope springs eternal. No, I'm showing you real results, and what is happening is people are turning out, but people have to see wins. And if you start seeing wins in school board races, in county races, and state races, that is going to begin to create the momentum and the buildup of what's going to happen next year in the congressional and the Senate races.
You named 10 races where Democrats had a strong candidate, potentially, or going to have a strong candidate, and you're absolutely right. You still got to give them hope, and you got to give them a plan, I think. And I don't think we.
Yes, no, you. Yeah, but here's the deal, though. But again, though, that's on the national level. When you talk about elections, when you talk about getting people reactivated, then you have to grab the low-hanging fruit. Mustafa, this is very simple. If I'm out here, if I'm trying to get somebody's attention, I got to sit here and say, hey, y'all, we can't do nothing about 2028 right now. Trump, the election, Trump is going to be there till January 2029. Today, We can't do nothing about who controls the House and control the Senate. What can we focus on today? We can focus on the elections right in front of us. And on Kamala lost November 5th. Vice President Harris lost November 5th. On this show on November 8th, people were like, damn, bro, you moved on. I said, y'all, she lost. I'm not about to be in a perpetual state of mourning. She lost. What was I talking about on this show on November 8th? The Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. That was in April. What was I talking about? The special elections in November. That's how we have to be focusing people's attention on what's right in front of us, and you win those races, then people say, oh, we won? Yep, now we're going for the next one. Now we're going for the next one. Now we're going for the next one. But stop focusing on shit that you can't impact today. Focus on what you can impact.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way that I was trained. As an organizer, what you do is you got to help folks be able to get the small wins. And then we also have a strategic plan for what the medium wins and the larger wins look like. But you've got to create, and I understand what Scott's saying when he says hope, because hope is a part of making sure that people understand that we do have a pathway forward. And that's why having the small wins get people energized. They begin to believe again that they have the ability and they have the power to actually help to make the change that they're looking for. So, if you've ever been anyone who's done anything with frontline work, if you've ever been an organizer, you understand the steps that are necessary. And we've just got to make sure that we're getting back to that we're implementing that, and that we're making sure that people understand, as in the words of my grandmother, you have power unless you give it away. So we've got a pathway forward.
I need people pissed off, Randy. I need people, when they see what's happening, to go, this is some bullshit. And the response is, okay, what you going to do then? Are you going to complain about it? Or are you going to change something? That's what needs to happen. Listen, I know Alabama is red as all get out, but all that money Alabama universities are losing because of cuts to the National Institutes of Health. Oh, I hope Democrats are mobilizing, organizing people. People need to understand, I can be pissed off and mad, or I can exact revenge at the ballot box. But I have to be educating people now on what they're doing. And we got to be saying, see that? See that? Like, for instance, all these FBA Negroes who are running around here talking about, oh, yeah, Trump going to put money in my pockets. Oh, well, guess what? He wants to defund the Minority Business Development Agency. Oh, by the way, Trump wants to unleash the cops against you by indemnifying them and then giving them even more protection. Oh, don't be shocked when he gives a pardon to that deputy sheriff who got fired in L.A., who brutally beat the black woman who was filming the encounter at the grocery stop. Oh, don't forget the 2 cops in Washington, D.C., who led a chase, and the black boy, the 21-year-old black guy, ends up dying. Well, then Trump pardons them. Those 2 cops are now back on the force. This is how you show folks, like, oh, yeah, all y'all running around here talking about, oh, how Trump's so good for your pockets. How your pockets doing right now?
You must keep them aware of exactly what Trump is doing and how he is affecting us, particularly as a people. Like they say, you can rule the ignorant, you can manipulate the illiterate, you can do anything you want to the uninformed and the uneducated. So it's important and imperative that people know what's going on and how it affects us. So absolutely, they must be aware. Secondly, when you were talking, I kept thinking about that quote that always says, how do you eat an elephant? And it's one bite at a time. So yes, it's so easy to become overwhelmed if we talk about the election and that we have 4 more years with this supposed dictator. But if we look at this one bite at a time, one election at a time, one win at a time, one case at a time, we definitely move the needle. That's how we get through this. People have come out and said that part of the strategy for Trump and MAGA has been to overwhelm us. He's purposefully putting out multiple executive orders every single day. So we feel defeated. We feel weary. We feel as if we can't fight back. And yes, we do need to understand what he's doing, but we need to be more focused on what we need to do. And we do it one step at a time. And we will make progress. And it will get us to the elections in 26 and then further down.
See, Scott, I'll show you how it's working. Go to my iPad. Guess who all of a sudden is opposed to Ed Martin's nomination to be the U.S. Attorney in D.C.? North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis. You know why? Because Tillis's ass is on the line next year. And what I've been saying to preachers, there was a preacher who's on the National Action Network board. They were going to their convention, and they were going to have a panel talking about the black church in the age of Trump. I said, man, don't waste your time with that bullshit topic. I said, you know what y'all should be doing? Y'all should be focusing on creating a non-organizing committee of black churches in Georgia and North Carolina to target that Senate seat. I'm telling you right now, what I said is black preachers should be mobilizing the black belt in North Carolina to take this punk ass out. And who is Tom Tillis? He is the architect of the voter and disenfranchisement law that was in North Carolina. This is the same man who blocked 3 black women from the federal bench who was appointed under President Barack Obama. This man needs to lose, so it's no doubt he is concerned about this here, and this is the kind of pressure folks should be putting to bear. So if you don't have any local elections in North Carolina, you don't have, guess what? The energy should be focused on mobilizing and organizing and teaching people about his record, so when the election comes up, we beat his ass in 2026.
Ed Martin doesn't need to be the U.S. Attorney for D.C.
He doesn't, because he's a Nazi sympathizer. He's a liar. He protected the January 6th domestic terrorists, and he should be defeated. And trust me, Tom Tillis is scared to cast a vote for Ed Martin.
Maybe.
But don't be shocked.
Maybe.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. But now he's come out and said he's opposed to it, but don't be shocked if Trump makes that call and leans on Tillis, and Tillis, like he did with Peter Hegseth. Go ahead.
Don't get too excited, because all it takes is Trump to make one.
No. I'm not getting excited. The only thing I'm excited about is focus on beating his ass in 26.
Well, Roland, here's a question for you. Everything you said in the last 10 or 15 minutes on this segment was true in 2024. In fact, we knew what he did in 2016, right? And
no,
and we
24 was different. Your 24 was different.
But it was even worse than we
No. Scott, this is real clear, Scott. I don't give a, no, Scott, here's the deal. Scott, I don't want to hear it. Scott, you know what I want to hear it? I don't want to hear it. You know what I want to hear it?
Okay.
I don't give a shit about 24. 24 is over. It's over.
Yeah, I know you don't want to talk about it.
No. We've discussed 24. Scott, we've talked about 24. I'm not wasting any time on 24.
2025.
We're in 25.
Same stuff, right?
That's a lie.
It's 2025 right now. And you know what? Your rhetoric is the same. And you know what?
Scott.
Unless Democrats and independents vote, it's not going to change.
Scott, that's a lie. Scott, allow me to show you some evidence of what happens when you educate people. There was an election in Louisiana. Scott, allow me to teach you some more that you don't know. There was a statewide election in Louisiana. There was an African-American who was running for governor. Black turnout was absolutely abysmal. It was atrocious. It was horrible. So what happened? Jeff Landry, the MAGA attorney general, became the governor. And what did he start doing? And because people did not turn out, then Republicans got a supermajority in the legislature. So what did they start doing? They started passing all kinds of laws in 2024. The election was in 2023. Passing all these sorts of laws in 2024. Then Jeff Landry tried to push forward 4 constitutional amendments. On one of them, they even recruited 50 Cent to drop a video touting this tax proposal. Guess what? In the early voting, black people accounted for more than 1/3 of all early votes. Black numbers were off the chain. Do you know why? Because after that abysmal showing in 2023, we had Gary Chambers on here. There were Gary Chambers and other groups in Louisiana hit the ground, went all around the state. You know what we did on this show? Educated, informed, enlighten people. So guess what happened in 2025? They turned out into huge numbers. The point I'm making is I'm not wasting my time for all the drama that happened in 2024. Biden drops out the debate. Folk don't like Kamala Harris. That's old news. I'm focusing on today, and I fundamentally believe this here. I fundamentally believe that when you educate, you inform, and you enlighten people, that they're going to make better choices. And so my focus on this show, on every platform that I have, is to do that, and we're going to leave it all on the field. And I believe that we're going to see a difference. I'm saying right now, Republicans are going to lose the House in 2026, and I believe Democrats are going to have a 5 to 8 seat majority because people are going to be so pissed off and they're going to be motivated to vote. Write that down today. But that's only going to happen when we stop talking about 24 and we start focusing on 25 in present day. I gotta go to a break. 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 We'll be right back. We'll talk. We had an idiot in the Oval Office today, and I'm not talking about the Canadian Prime Minister. Wait till we show you the sheer stupidity from this fool, Donald Trump. I'll be right back.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we're talking about the difficulty of being able to acquire wealth for Black Americans. My guest, Emily Flitter, is the author of The White Wall, How Big Finance is Bankrupting Black Americans.
The bad stuff that you feel when you're dealing with the financial services industry is not your fault. It's not your fault, and you don't deserve to be treated like this.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show. You're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Folks, today, a real leader was in the Oval Office, just 2 blocks from where we sit. What is his name? His name is Mark. He's a Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney. He came to meet with the idiot who unfortunately represents this country. And if y'all want to see some sheer stuck on stupid stuff, how about this here? This dumbass, Donald Trump, started praising hockey players. He's talking about, oh, how great things are. He starts praising a hockey player who plays for the Washington Capitals, who recently broke the all-time scoring record. The problem is the hockey player is from Russia. Watch this dumbass.
I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. Wayne Gretzky, I mean, how good, the great one. You happen to have a very, very good hockey player right here on the Capitals, who I have a lot of, he is a big, tough cookie too, just broke the record. And he's a great guy. And, you know, we had the team here, and I got to know a lot of the players. But now, Canada is a very special place.
I don't give a damn about hockey, but I know Alex Ovechkin. He's from Russia. Do you know whose record he broke? Wayne Gretzky's. This dumbass is touting this amazing Canadian hockey player here in D.C. who's actually from Russia. Look, I done told y'all this boy is dumb. I done told you he's dumb. Then this dumbass continued with the bullshit of making Canada the 51st state. My man Carney was like, nah, pimp, we ain't going there.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, you know, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign, last several months. It's not for sale, won't be for sale ever, but the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the president just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the president has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have.
It gets worse. This idiot, I done told y'all, he's truly one of the dumbest people I've ever seen in my life. Y'all, this idiot said, yeah, I mean, it ain't like we do much business in the United States with Canada. He got fact-checked in real time by the Canadian Prime Minister. Press play.
During the campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American betrayal. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And usually those things don't last very long. You know, we have great things, great product. The kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell, including military. Look, we make the best military equipment in the world, and Canada buys our military equipment, which we appreciate. But we make the best military equipment in the world by far. The missiles, the submarines, everything. Everything we have is really top notch.
Respectfully, Canadians' view on this is not going to change on the 51st day. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
Go to my iPad. This is Republicans against Trump. In 2024, the U.S. did over $600 billion in trade with Canada, including $350 billion in exports and $250 billion in imports. You know, Scott, there used to be a time when the President of the United States would board Air Force One, and you would see that blue and white plane, and you would say, we're sending our best to talk to the world. And that was a time when visiting dignitaries would come. They would have these they're called sprays, in the Oval Office. And we could be fairly confident that the occupant of the Oval Office read the briefing papers that staff gave them, spent some time the night before in the private study in the residence, going over the information. But now, we have that dumbass from high school and college who didn't read any of the assignment, who didn't study, and then when they get called to the front of the class to explain a particular chapter, they start talking about the trees and the winds and the birds and how beautiful things are and how amazing and beautiful the writing is and the topography. And you're sitting in class like, that's my reaction anytime this dumbass Donald Trump talks.
Democracy and the Constitution is there are not a whole lot of qualifications you need to be president. All you got to do is give one more vote to the next guy. Just one more vote. So you can be a racist, you can be dumb as hell, and if you get more votes than the next guy, you win. The founding fathers never contemplated that Donald Trump. To be president, you had to be a leading thinker, leading person, leader, if you will, and competent in some part, politics, democracy, business, whatever the case might be. At least that's how they contemplated it. This is the danger of democracy. If you put that screen back up that you just had when you were talking, that $350 billion of exports represents 17% of all of our exports. I'd call that doing business with Canada. And the other thing is this, our joint security efforts, securing North America, north of Mexico, right, up until the northern border of Canada, is all U.S.-Canadian forces. In fact, if you go to any training facility in the U.S., you're likely to find some Canadian troops training with U.S. troops. And so picking a fight with Canada, there's more similarity than dissimilarity, and picking a fight with them over tariffs and what have you. What about professional services? You know, we never talk about professional services, right? Canada, we're upside down with Canada and other countries on the amount of personal services that we export versus they import from us than just these hardcore goods. Because we don't talk about services. So if you combine those two, it kind of works out. It kind of evens itself out regardless of the tariff for goods, if you will. I was just reading a report on this in the Washington Post. And so there's a fuller, more complicated picture to this, which is the irony is you have a president that's not well read and just wants to do tariffs because they did it in the 20s and 30s, which, by the way, caused the Great Depression. Nobody ever says that, or he doesn't think that either, but it did. So there you have it, Roland.
What we're now seeing, Randy, Canadians are like, yeah, we ain't going to Florida. Nah, Canadians are like, nah, Las Vegas, y'all can go to hell. And the numbers are, when I say the numbers are dropping like crazy, they're dropping like crazy. I'm gonna find a video in a second where the company that controls the Bellagio, they're like, yo, we laying off concierge people at every hotel except 2. Folks aren't coming. Okay, right. So when you shit on all the rest of these countries, they like, all right, we good. And then when you start snatching folks' cell phones, going through customs, they're like, yo, it's other countries we can go to spend money. This dumbass has killed American tourism, but he goes on, does an interview, I think, other day, he goes, oh no, tourism is up. The interview with Terry Moran, Terry Moran's like, no, it's not, it's down. This dumbass is living in his own delusion, and the minions around him going, yeah, boss, it went up, when it's down massively.
Significantly down, and people are losing their jobs because this man cannot keep good relationships with the people who are our greatest allies at one time. Canadians are all over doing videos saying that they will not come to America. They're canceling plans left and right, and it's affecting the hospitality industry here in the United States. And what is so incredibly insane about it is he wants to act as if he's the strong leader, but he doesn't even understand the business. I mean, how do you say that we don't do much business with Canada and they're third after China and Mexico in the effective amount that we do business with? And he has no idea about it. I mean, I get secondhand embarrassment every time he opens his mouth. And then you have Vance and Rubio just sitting there. I mean, I would be biting my tongue if this is my boss, with a prime minister just spouting just inaccuracies one after the other, obviously not knowing what he's doing. So not only do we have the audacity to be aggressive, we're aggressive and then dumb with Canada. So I'm not mad at Canada. When everything they said they were going to do, when they said they were going to cut the electricity, I was like, I can't be mad at them. When they say they're not visiting the United States anymore, I can't be mad at them. Like, I wouldn't mess with us either.
Here's Mustafa. Mustafa, this is real basic. I mean, it's some basic ass home training. I mean, home training is when, a guest comes to your house. They might say some ignorant shit. But you're trained not to go there. You're trained to be respectful. You may not like your nephew's girlfriend, but home training, you don't cuss her out in front of everybody else. This dumbass he just insults. Yeah, man, but what we do with Canada ain't really nothing. He insults sitting right there. And I'm glad Carney was like, hold up. And see, what he does is, then what Trump does, like, y'all please find that video when he was going off and Muriel Bowser was standing right there. He was saying some crazy shit, and her whole body language was like she. First of all, I'm sorry. I'm going to walk the hell off. Or at least just stand there and drop your head and just do this here. Just do a small nod or something. Right. This is literally what the 77 million dumbasses who voted for him said, hey, here's our best, world.
Well, what you're seeing play out is the paradigm of privilege, right? This individual has always had privilege his entire life. He's able to do and say whatever, even when it wasn't true, even when it wasn't helpful. And now he's taking it once again to the White House on the international stage. You also see the dumbing down of America because it starts at the top. The policies that they've moved forward on have made us in a worse position. In an uneducated position, if I can say it that way. So I don't expect anything different from him because it has been how he has operated his entire life, or at least as long as he's been in the press where you could read the steps that he's done. But it goes back also to American folks who made a decision to put an individual who they knew was uneducated when it comes to the policies, who is uneducated and finding ways of bringing a country together, who is uneducated and having the ability to uplift a country. So we see it play out now. So when you have the dumbing down of America, this is what you end up getting. But you also have the ability, as we talked about in the previous segment, to begin to change that dynamic by making sure that we are infusing our own sets of energy to actually educate folks and to get people prepared for these opportunities that are coming.
I went ahead and found y'all. I'm telling you. So yesterday, they were all in the Oval Office. Roger Goodell, NFL Commissioner, Muriel Bowser, all talking about building the NFL stadium, coming back to D.C. And can you imagine having to stand there if you're Bowser and Roger Goodell and you stand there and going, this is an idiot next to me. This is literally a dumbass. I just want y'all, I'm going to play 2 clips. Don't look at Trump, because if you do, you're going to go to stone like the Bible says. But I just want y'all to look at, matter of fact, can I zoom in? Yep, I can. I'm going to zoom in on her face. I just want y'all just listen to this fool talk and watch her face.
You would implement tariffs on the film industry, kind of how that would work?
Well, that's a different story, but our film industry has been decimated by other countries taking them out, and also by incompetence, like in Los Angeles. The governor is a grossly incompetent man. He's just allowed it to be taken away from, you know, Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't do very much of that business. They have the nice sign and everything's good, but they don't do very much. A lot of it's been taken to other countries, and a big proportion. And I'm actually going to meet with some because, you know, there's some advantages, I guess, and I'm not looking to hurt the industry. I want to help the industry.
All right, that ain't the best one. Hold on. It's a longer one. I got to go. Let me find it. Hold on. And again, the sheer stupidity of this fool is... okay, all right, y'all ready? Hold on. Let me zoom. Can I zoom in on this one? Okay, yep. I want y'all to see her face again.
So they came in by the millions illegally into our country. They just flowed in through an open border policy that was insane. And what we've done is we've offered, you know the numbers, but because we're taking them out by the thousands, we're being obstructed. It's very unfair what's happening because the court system is it's very unfair. We have to get them out fast. These are bad people. These are people that are killing, and they've already killed many people in this country. The illegal immigrants that came in illegally through an open border policy, which is insane. We talk about common sense. That's not common sense. And they came in from the Congo, all over Africa, all over Asia, all over South America, parts of Europe. They flowed in and just walked right into our country. We had no idea who they were. 21 million at least. That's probably a low number. You know, you hear lower numbers than that. It's not. That's a low number. But many are really serious criminals and terrorists and people from jails. They emptied out jails. You know, Venezuela, their crime is down 72% because they took all the criminals off the streets and the gangs and they dumped them into our country. So we're getting them out. It's a very difficult thing with the courts because the courts have all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they said, maybe you have to have trials. We're going to have 5 million trials. Doesn't work. So
Randy, this would have been me while that fool is talking. Ooh, this is a nice painting back here. Ooh, I like the decor in here. Ooh, this is nice. There's no way I could have stood there. I mean, and you know his ass lying. He's just lying.
Listen.
I mean, I'm sorry. Is she trying this? Listen, I've been there. This one of those where you just sit here when they talking, man, you just over here. Or you do one of these here.
Right.
Excuse me. Let me take this call. Let me step out. That's what you do. Because, I mean, I am not trying to be a part of that stupidity. Randy, go.
Right. Let me say this. On behalf of all the sisters out here, let me say, we sisters may be able to hold our mouths, our tongues, right? We may be able to, but our face is always going to tell people how we feel. That's what you could see right there with Bowser. Like, she literally was having tics. You could see she was biting her tongue, biting her mouth, eyes were shifted. She was having such a hard time holding it together. Like I said, we may be able to hold our Black woman's tongue. We may be able to do it, but it's tough for us. But our face will always give it away. And certainly you could see that right there. And I felt sorry for the sister because, whoo, yeah, that took strength. That took strength to hear all the lies spouting out of his mouth.
I mean, they were there to announce the NFL draft is going to be held in D.C. in 2027, whatever. Okay, whatever. But that's when just lying. Right. Just lying. I mean, you know, Scott, you way more diplomatic than me. So I don't know how you would have handled that.
There's only so much you can do, but Mayor Bowser, I got to tell you, when he said they came from all over Africa, that's what she really.
He went to the Congo. They came all over Africa.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to say. I was waiting for him to say, "Done brought them damn chucking spears," and I was just waiting for that.
All over Asia, and this is the thing that gets me. When he starts out, they empty their jails, and they've killed millions of people since they've been here. They killed a lot of people. They're not killing people. It's some small percentage, but that's his narrative. And then he just starts to riff, and that becomes a narrative for people who vote for him. It's very dangerous using the bully pulpit as a presidential candidate or a president and stuff, because there's no empirical data to support that somehow people who cross the border in the South commit more crimes per ratio or per capita.
Come on, Scott, you trying to use some damn common sense.
Yeah, I know, but because I'm a lawyer.
I just, you know,
it just makes no sense.
Well,
call him ignorant and dumb. Yeah, he is.
Well, speaking of not making.
Here's the power of Trump, though. People believe that narrative, man.
Cause they stupid too.
Like they do.
They stupid too. I remember when I was at CNN and I was on Anderson Cooper. John Avlon said, "Roland, we shouldn't call the American voters dumb. If your ass voted for Trump, you dumb."
Right. But they believe this narrative, man. It's like a cult following. If he says it, then it's got to be true. And if he says it, when he's moving his lips, you know he's lying, because it's just no data to support it. He just riffs. And then it's all propaganda, right? And then he's got the power of the presidency now, so there's nobody that's going to correct him. The media tries to, Democrats try to. We get drowned out. Those forces get drowned out by the power of his presidency. And so people, not in Washington, but in the hinterlands, if you will, believe that. People in Illinois, I don't care Blue State Risk said, his followers believe that becomes the truth, and then they turn on Fox News, and it's repeated on a rolling basis, and now you have the cult following. And now they'll follow whatever he says, including, I'm going to make it more painful for you now, despite the Biden economy, and we'll be okay. This is going to be the golden age for America, which is all bullshit, if you will. But he says it, and then that becomes the narrative and stuff. But if you look at recent polling, right, 60% of Americans believe that this is not the Biden economy and not why they're feeling nervous. And consumer confidence, 60% of Americans lack consumer confidence. This is the Trump economy, because they know the tariffs and how he's implemented them has caused uncertainty.
I think
you should add that to your narrative about what's going to happen in 2 years.
I think I found
it's there already.
I think I found that clip when I was slamming the birthers, and John Avlon, who's now in Congress, like, we shouldn't call the American voters dumb. Let me see if was this it? Go ahead and pick it up.
And that's why, look, I know, John, I know we want to be nice about it, but I'm sorry. If we keep putting out fact after fact after fact, and people still don't believe the facts, they're stupid, John. That's what we call them in the real world. Well, maybe it's not nice or PC to call them that on television, but this is ridiculous. I mean, think about it. This is a House of Representatives in a state saying, forget another state, forget a Republican governor, forget the head of the health department, forget all of them. They're all wrong. We want to see it ourselves.
Hey, look, the state legislators in question aren't just stupid, they're cynical. And you know, this big problem, ultimately, it goes from an old quote by Jonathan Swift: you can't reason people out of something they weren't reasoned into. This is right-wing politics. This is about fear-based appeals designed to divide the American people and try to delegitimize a duly elected president of the United States. That's why we should all be offended by it.
I think a lot of people are going to be offended, Roland, by you calling people stupid.
Well, go right ahead. But if they believe he's a Muslim and they believe he's not American, I'm sorry, Anderson, they're stupid.
Roland, I'll leave it there. I'm not going to argue with you. Roland, Arden, appreciate it. John Avlon as well. Thank you.
That's the problem right there with CNN. Right. That's why they ratings in the toilet. They won't call stupid stupid. Damn it. See, why we sit here and play nice? I'm going to call stupid stupid. I'm going to call stupid stupid. I don't give a damn. Stupid stupid. In fact, if y'all want to see stupid, I wasn't even gonna play this. Here's Congressman Joe Nagase dealing with present day some dumbass Republicans. Watch this.
I never thought I would thank the chairman for opposing my amendment, but just being able to get him to say I oppose the amendment is a start. Mr. Stauber, do you oppose the amendment? You're going to vote on it in like 2 minutes. The country's going to know your position on it.
I remind members to address the remarks to the chair.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, does Mr. Stauber oppose the amendment? I'm directing the remarks towards you. Is that not? I yield back to, I yield to the ranking member. Sure.
I'm just wondering if the gentleman from Colorado can tell from this angle. Mr. Stauber's working his phone there. His thumb is very nimble. Do you think he's playing Candy Crush or Minesweeper?
I don't know.
I again ask members to address the remarks to the chair.
Mr. Chairman, I will say it pains me. It pains me because, again, I have great respect for Mr. Stauber and for many of my friends on the other side of the aisle. And I have to imagine that they find this as absurd as I do. I mean, if we are left to, we're now in a position in which Republican colleagues are not allowed to say whether or not they support or oppose an amendment when they will be voting on that amendment a mere few minutes later. I don't think that's how craven this process has gotten. I don't understand. Mr. Chairman, how about this? I'll ask a question. Of course, I don't expect an answer, but was there a formal memo at all issued by Republican leadership in terms of how the hearing should proceed, of members being allowed to answer questions or not answer questions or say whether they support amendments or? Okay, well, you might consider, yeah? Okay, well then I guess I'll just let the time wind down. Fascinating hearing. I've never nothing quite like this. And I yield back the 4 seconds of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Ms. Stansbury, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Who pays tariffs? This is what I'm talking about. This is how stupid these people are, Mustafa. And I get the Congress and said, oh, you know, I have great respect for my colleagues on the side aisle. Man, fuck that. I ain't all that. The gentleman, the gentlelady, man, man, go ahead.
I mean, again, it's the dumbing down of America that everybody wants to act like they don't have a brain, and the folks who are supposed to have a brain evidently don't have a brain. And that's why we continue to get the things that we get. So, you know, I was thinking about Mayor Bowser, right? And I was hoping that there was some thought bubbles that were going to pop up so you could actually see how she really felt. Because it was funny when Randy was saying that, first thing I thought of was the first thought bubble was going to be, oh, hell no. And then the next one was going to be, I can't wait until I get my budget so I could actually say what I want to say. And then I saw a Pac-Man come and start making that little noise as he ate across. So, you know, it's just ridiculous, the things that we currently have going on in this country. You know, how we continue to go to the lowest common denominator, how we will put people in office who are unqualified. If you want to talk about meritocracy, you want to talk about merit, all you got to do is look at all these unqualified folks from the presidency all the way down who just are not prepared. And so they are being, there are these puppeteers who continue to utilize them to push these agendas that will have devastating effects on our country for decades upon decades to come. And that's why, you know, when we talk about educating and motivating and innovating, is so critically important because, you know, Scott said there are people, you know, in other parts of the country who just, you know, are not tuned into what's going on or who may not know. That's why we have a responsibility, along with others, to make sure that the real information is out there so we can deal with the misinformation and disinformation that continues to be pumped into people's brains. Because if someone continues to tell you something and there is no counter narrative to that, you will begin to believe it. That's why Republicans bought up all of those AM radio stations. I started talking about it years ago because they kept getting the same messages time and time and time again. And people began to believe it because they're like, well, I heard it, on the radio, so it must be true. And then when I worked on Capitol Hill, I would see Republicans getting these talking points, and every one of them would say the exact same thing, even when they knew it wasn't true, but it became a part of the narrative. So that's why you have to be able to push back against these false narratives, against the misinformation and the disinformation and the foolishness that continues to go on, because it will become a part of the DNA of our country if we're not very careful.
Listen, my thought bubble would just be one thought bubble. This mother, that'd be the only thought bubble I had. Look, the Congressman Joe Nagase thing wasn't the only sheer stupidity on Capitol Hill. Congresswoman Lauren Underwood questioned glam girl Kristi Noem. She raided the Department of Homeland Security costume closet, and she been wearing every costume all over the place. I guess she thought she was at the Met Gala. But here's Underwood questioning this dumbass.
This weekend, the president made the remarkable statement that he, quote, doesn't know whether he has to uphold the Constitution. You, however, have taken a different position, both in your confirmation hearing and when you took the oath of office. You said that you were committed to complying with the Constitution. Do you still stand by that statement?
Absolutely. I believe President Trump
Excellent.
as well.
Let's start with Article 1, which gives Congress and only Congress the power of the purse. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. But this administration is freezing, terminating, and even clawing back federal grants and awards that were already signed into law. These are taxpayer dollars that were appropriated by Congress for the specific purposes that we laid out. So, Secretary, let me ask you, do you believe the administration has the authority to subvert appropriations law to freeze and terminate congressional funding?
The administration and the Department of Homeland Security used our authorities that we have to evaluate every grant that was in front of us and meet statutory requirements, but also to make sure that they were being spent appropriate.
So, of course, the president is within his authorities.
Make sure
Ma'am,
that
this
we
is my
went
time.
forward.
Thank you so much. Of course, the president's within his authorities to drive policy decisions within the bounds of federal law and the Constitution, but that's not what you've been doing. What I'm asking is whether you believe you have the authority to ignore appropriations law. Do you believe that the Constitution gives the executive branch unilateral authority to withhold funds appropriated by the legislative branch?
We have evaluated grants to make sure if they're being spent appropriately, and work that is underway and was authorized has continued. Other grants that have not been started and have not been authorized or obligated, we have reevaluated. And I think you're talking specifically about grants potentially within FEMA that were non-disaster related grants.
I'm talking broadly, ma'am, and Article 2 does not give the executive the authority to withhold funds, period. And multiple courts have weighed in to agree. Multiple courts have ruled in agreement. Congress controls the power of the purse. That is a fact. That's not a question. That is a fact. And so if the president disagrees with certain spending, Congress passed the Impoundment Act to create a legal process to seek rescissions, and we expect him to follow the law. This administration is not just ignoring the constitutional power of the people's elected representatives. It is also violating the fundamental right of individuals. Do you believe that the Constitution grants everyone in our country the right to due process, including non-citizens?
The administration has the authority to.
Ma'am, I'm looking for a yes or no question. Yes or no. Do you believe the Constitution? Yes, ma'am. Do you,
we have not conducted in
reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman? Time is yours. Okay, Secretary Noem, I'm just looking for a yes or no here. Do you believe the Constitution guarantees due process to everyone in America?
Due process is exactly what this Congress lays out.
Yes or no?
It is,
okay, ma'am, I'll take that as a no.
On due process
excuse me, I'm trying to ascertain your understanding of the law as it applies to your department, and you as its leader should be able to give us a yes or no answer, because judge after judge has ruled that the law is not being followed. Do you believe that the U.S. government has the authority to deport American citizens?
No, and we are not deporting U.S. citizens.
I'm so happy to hear that you do not believe that the law gives you that authority, because the federal government has no authority under U.S. laws to deport any American citizen. And as I know, everyone viewing this hearing today knows that several American citizens have been deported to date.
That is not
Secretary
true.
Noem, that was not a question. Secretary Noem, that oath that we both swore before taking office was to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Not the president, not a political party, the Constitution. And that's what we're going to keep doing here at the Appropriations Committee. Thank you. I yield back.
Well, Randy, that's how you question a lying fool.
I am glad that they both had on black, because Underwood killed that cosplaying fool. And it was a funeral. It was a funeral. Like, I get such pleasure in watching the way she broke that down and made it, because you could see Noem doing as she always does, not answering the question. And the question was, are you representing or respecting the Constitution? And we all know that the answer has been no, and that they have completely not respected the power of Congress, whatsoever. And they're just just running rogue and acting as this is a dictatorship. So it was such a brilliant read. Oh, this brings me joy to watch the way she ripped her a new one. And she knows that they're breaking the law. Yep. She knows they haven't been respecting the Constitution whatsoever. They exactly know what they're doing. They're still doing it.
Scott?
Yeah, you know, the worst part of that question and answer was the fact that the cabinet member for Homeland Security, the director, could not answer that.
The secretary. She the secretary.
The secretary could not answer whether she believed in due process for all people who are in the United States.
Because they don't.
They don't.
Exactly. But just think about that the Secretary of Homeland Security couldn't answer that question, or would not answer that question directly. The answer to that question is yes. Now, what process is due? You can argue about it, but clearly the bedrock of the Constitution and of our criminal justice system is the process that is due. Doesn't mean you don't get deported. It means you get a hearing, you face witnesses, you get to respond to allegations. If you don't believe that, then you're violating the law every decision you make when you start taking people out of this country or calling them gangs or using the Alien Enemies Act and what have you, which the courts, even the Supreme Court, has said you got to give them due process.
But Scott, it's no shock. Scott, it's no shock that she could not answer that, because this is her idiot boss Sunday on NBC's Meet the hold on. This is Trump on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday. You think she's stupid? She just following in the footsteps of the simpleton in chief. Listen.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment, your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth...
I don't know. Okay, I got a little more to play back. Okay, here we go.
Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth, some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me. And they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United States?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
Damn, it's a lot that dumbass don't know.
Let me tell you something. he just said he didn't know whether the due process was in the Constitution. The problem is this, and I'm not being too lawyerly. It doesn't hurt them to say that they believe in due process. They should say that, because their interpretation of the process that's due and our interpretation of the process that's due vis-a-vis confronting allegations, confronting adverse witnesses, how you do that, and there's some exceptions under the immigration laws and stuff, they don't lose anything by saying, yes, I believe everybody deserves due process, and they still won't say that. Answer yes.
But they won't say it.
Think about that.
But Mustafa, no. But Mustafa, they won't say it because the thugs that voted for him, they don't believe in it. They're like just sitting it out.
Yeah, they only believe in due process for themselves or for those that they find value in. I mean, that's just real. I mean, you see how they dehumanize all kinds of folks. You know, we've got folks who are untruthful, who are unprepared and unqualified for the positions that they are holding. There are talented folks who are out there that they could have put in those positions, but they chose not to. And they chose not to because they had to make sure that they had individuals who would do whatever the president required of them, whether it is violating the Constitution, violating laws, or anything else that falls underneath of those umbrellas. So we should not be surprised with the types of responses that you get, the gaslighting that you get. They know the answers to those questions. They know if there have been conversations or if the president has said, do everything that you can to work with El Salvador to bring that individual back. Yeah, to facilitate the conversation, right. You know, we know what's going on, but people continue. And I'm sorry, folks had said before that, you know, the press has been, you know, pushing the president and asking the right questions. I have not seen that. Because every time he has a set of talking points that he injects into no matter what the particular item is that he's going to talk about. He's going to talk about DEI. He's going to talk about, you know, folks not being qualified. He's going to talk about all these types of things. And I never hear anyone in the press say, well, what exactly does that mean? Where are the facts? Where are the examples? So we continue to allow.
Or you never hear them say, that's a lie.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's a lie.
But
that's a lie.
You know, you want to hear what are those facts? What are those examples? Because then people can make an informed decision if they want to continue to support these types of actions. If you just say it's a lie, then they'll just say, well, that's just folks who are hating on him, instead of being able to actually break this stuff apart. And I think that that's the responsibility of real journalism, to ask those hard questions, no matter who it is. Doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican or an independent who happens to sit in these seats of supposed power. You're supposed to ask those tough questions when someone puts something out there. So we continue to see it play out time and time again. And that's the reason why you have all these folks who are just caught up in this chaotic situation and are not thinking critically about, you know, what you're losing as an American by allowing these types of things to go on.
Well, again, if you want to see their stupidity, how about this here? Trump's Department of Justice has opened an investigation into the Hennepin County Attorney's Office in Minnesota. Okay, let me explain, y'all. This is a DA's office in Minnesota. After the DA, Mayor Moriarty, directed prosecutors to consider racial disparities when negotiating plea deals. The DOJ Civil Rights Division, led by Hamid Dillon, announced the probe, citing concerns that the policy may illegally factor race into prosecutorial decisions. The Justice Department's letter states that the investigation will examine whether the office is engaged in a pattern of violating constitutional rights by unlawfully considering race. Moriarty's office says it will cooperate and stands by the policy's legality. Scott, what the hell?
The law still bars racial profiling, racial discrimination, and racial disparity in sentencing. The judicial canons of ethics, most bar rules, and the laws on the books, notwithstanding executive order, that doesn't mean diddly squat. The law is still the law. There's nothing inappropriate, unethical, or wrong about that prosecutor's office when looking at its policy regarding sentencing, are we being racially fair with dispensing sentences? If I'm sending black people to jail at a 5-to-1 rate and they're being sentenced more based on our recommendations than, let's say, a similarly situated white convicted criminal, there's a problem with that. In fact, that's reversible error if the defendants appeal it based on racial disparity in the sentencing recommendation, let alone whether it's the judge that's doing it or the recommendations coming out of the prosecutor's office. And so that investigation is going nowhere. And I'm not sure that the feds have any authority over the discretionary review, internal review by a state prosecutor duly elected by the people of that jurisdiction. Period.
But this right here, Randy, is what we were trying to tell people about attacks on DEI. They broaden this thing and they want to go after everything. And I said they want to completely undercut and defund the black civil rights and economic rights agenda. That's what this is about. They don't care if there are racial disparities.
They would like to actually pretend that there aren't racial disparities. They would actually like to pretend that we all are on an equal playing ground, that the history isn't what it is with race in America. And so are you to set up that premise as if there have not been our racial past in this United States, then you could say, well, why would we have this program? That's unfair. The programs are in place because we do have the discrepancies. The programs are in place because currently the justice system heavily penalizes black people to a high difference than they do white people. It's factual. They come out with the statistics every year. The government comes out with the statistics every year. They report on themselves and they say repeatedly, that we have these issues. So what the prosecutor was doing is what she should be doing and say, let's keep in mind that we have these issues in America and be cognizant of it. But Trump's people would try to act as if it doesn't exist. And that is a problem because we know very clearly, and they know that they do exist.
Mustafa?
Well, I would build on what Randy said. I want people to pay attention because when Trump talks about racial discrimination, he is trying to get America to believe that there are white folks who are being racially discriminated against, right? So you got to watch the flip that's going on. So when you got the flip going on and you don't have anybody saying, well, when we look at housing, we don't see the disparate impacts that are happening to white folks in housing. We don't see the disparate impacts happening in relationship to health care. We don't see the disparate impacts happening to white folks when it comes to the wealth gap that exists inside of our country. You can go down the list, but folks don't pay attention to how he is both on the subliminal level and also just on top, continuing to feed this stuff to folks across the country. So folks start to think, well, you know what? Maybe there really is white folks who are being discriminated in our country, even though the data doesn't say it. Then you got to pay attention also to the fact, as Randy just shared, that this is also a part of a plan to be able to, mess with policy. And then, of course, policy is tied to resources, whether it's on the grant side or the contract, the subcontract side. So you got to understand this game that is actually being played. It starts on the auditory level of saying things and nobody fact checking it and nobody saying, well, where's the facts? Where are the examples? Because if you're saying this and if it's happening at the level that you're trying to make it sound like it is, then it should be rampant and you should be very easily have 3 or 4 or 5 examples you can pull out your pocket. And of course, he can't because he understands that it is a part of the misinformation and disinformation campaign that they have been going on both in this moment and over a number of sets of years before we got to this point.
I got to run this one by y'all. Randy Hinton Jr. Has been charged with aggravated murder and is being held without bond for allegedly running over a deputy sheriff who the day before shot and killed his 18-year-old son. Police say Ryan Hinton was killed after brandishing a gun at police during a stolen vehicle investigation. A gun was found at the scene. There's no indication that he fired it. Now, this is the courtroom scene, but I want y'all to check out what happened as he was coming into court. Now, you see all of these cops surrounding him, but let me show you what happened before this as he walked in. Go to my iPad. This brother here was not, I mean, they stared him down, he stared them down. He was. I mean, he didn't come to court with his head bowed. He literally, as he was walking into court, they were all standing out there. As a matter of fact, this looks like actually as he was, I think it was leaving court. You see, this is the courtroom there. And what I'm trying to understand, and again, here's what I'm trying to understand. And Scott, maybe you can help me from a lawyer standpoint. Why are all of these cops in the courtroom standing behind him? They're not on duty. Guys, roll the video y'all played earlier. And I know people are allowed into the courtroom, but this scene just looks weird to me that he's surrounded by all of these deputy sheriffs. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it looks like it's a small courtroom. It's still a public proceeding, and given that one of their own was allegedly killed by this individual, they showed up. There's only one person behind him that's really was side to side and behind him, two people who were there for security, which is not unusual. The rest of them are there to show solidarity for the loss of one of their own, as a show of force, also sending a message to the judge and anyone looking, right, that we don't want this idea, we don't want this to go south in regard to whether he gets let out on bail or otherwise. So it's a form of intimidation of the judge, of the defense attorney, as well as the prosecutor, but they're free to be there. You can see at least one of them has a cross over their badge, which is a signal of having lost one of their own. Now, he's free to stare down who he wants to stare down, but that's all about intimidation and support. That's all that is, and that's what those police organizations do. Vigilantism, if this is true, is never the answer, and he's going to get convicted if their evidence is sufficient. But at the same time, there's a lot wrong with the criminal justice system and how police officers operate. And you can understand the emotion of this parent who lost their child to gun violence of the police.
And what happened Randy, on Friday, Hinton and the family had gathered at the lawyer's office to watch police footage of his son being shot to death by the police. And in a statement from the lawyer, Hinton was understandably distraught watching the police body cam footage, was unable to finish watching the video. In the meeting, there were Cincinnati Police Department folks in the meeting as well. And then when it was over, he left in his own vehicle and he went searching for that cop and found him directing traffic, and he mowed him down.
Right. You know, I was reading about this story, and it's a tragedy, and certainly we would hope that that's not the answer. But I'm going to say it candidly. I understand. I mean, he watched, I'm a mother of two sons, and he watched his son get killed by that police officer. And from what they're saying, it does not appear that the police officer was fearful for his life. They stopped these boys, you know, for a car theft or something, right? Something that is not legal, but certainly not something that a child needs to die over. So this man watched this cop kill his son. Again, I'm not saying it was right, but I understand.
This was a comment from the Cincinnati Police Chief, Mustafa, said, "We do not expect the officers to wait until they're fired upon in terms of returning fire." But, you know, listen, this is extremely emotional. It's sad that his son is dead, this cop is dead. It's sad all the way around.
I mean, it is. We never want to see anyone's life being taken short and those different types of things. You also have to understand that, well, you know, when a parent loses a child, there's mental distress that is a part of that. and sometimes you're not thinking clearly. Then, so, yeah, for me, I'm a man of faith. I'm definitely going to pray for folks. But at the same time, we've done so many stories on this show where police officers have taken the life of innocent individuals. So, we continue to try and make sure that there's real police reform. And we try and also make sure that, we're doing everything that we can to make sure that, folks are held accountable when they do that. So, we'll see how it all plays out in the courts. My father used to always say, don't ever let anybody see you lowering your head. Always keep your head up. I hope that is a message that folks receive to make sure they keep their head up.
Folks, so tonight, a major update in the case that shocked Mississippi and the nation. Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker, two black men who were brutally tortured by a group of former cops known as the Goon Squad, have reached a $2.5 million settlement in their civil lawsuit against Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey. On January 24, 2023, 6 officers, 5 Rankin County deputies, and 1 Richland police officer raided a home in Braxton, Mississippi without a warrant. Jenkins and Parker were handcuffed, beaten, humiliated, subjected to racist abuse. Jenkins was shot in the jaw during a mock execution that went horribly wrong. All 6 officers have been convicted on both state and federal charges, serving a combined 132 years in prison. The original lawsuit sought $400 million. Under the settlement agreement, Rankin County will pay $500,000, while the county's insurance will cover the remaining $2 million. This is again, a huge case. We covered this case, had Malik Zulu Shabazz, the attorney, on as well. It marks the largest settlement in Mississippi's history for a police case involving excessive force or municipal liability. And again, we'll see what happens. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump pardons these cops on their federal charges, because that's what we are seeing more and more of. Final story, folks, some great news. The late Chuck Stone, a trailblazing journalist, he worked in black media. He was the editor of the Chicago Defender, columnist for the Philadelphia newspapers, former UNC Chapel Hill professor, honored with a special Pulitzer Prize, the highest national award in print journalism. He was recognized for his groundbreaking coverage of the civil rights movement and his role as the first of all, of course, that took place at black newspapers. I wish the Pulitzer Board had said that. In his role as the first black columnist at the Philadelphia Daily News, he also co-founded the National Association of Black Journalists, helping open doors for generations of black reporters. Stone was also a decorated Tuskegee Airman and a passionate educator who inspired countless students before dying in 2014 at the age of 89. The special Pulitzer Prize celebrates his enduring legacy as a fearless voice for justice and a pioneer who changed American journalism forever. I, of course, being a member of NABJ, plus an Alpha brother, had an opportunity to know Chuck, loved him dearly, and this is awesome. But I do have a problem with this Pulitzer Prize. If you're gonna name check the Philadelphia Daily News and him being the first black columnist, how do you not name check who he worked for covering the civil rights movement? The Chicago Defender should have been named in that Pulitzer announcement. I don't believe, so if you say you're honoring Chuck Stone's work covering the civil rights movement, who was he working for? But you honor him as the first columnist for the Philadelphia Daily News, but you don't mention the black paper. Yeah, Mustafa, I got a problem with that.
Yeah, no, that's real. And we know that they play those games all the time. He exemplified black excellence. He opened doors. He mentored folks. I just send love and respect. And I hope that he rests in power.
Randy?
When you talked earlier in the show about ensuring that people are educated, we must ensure that they know about what's going on today, but we also must ensure that they know about heroes like this and all that they went through to get us where we are. And so we understand that we can't let it go backwards because we owe it to them and their fight and their struggle.
He also was editor of the Afro-American. So the New York Age, the Afro-American, senior editor of the Philadelphia Daily News, editor-in-chief of the Chicago Defender. You know, I just, yeah, I got a problem with that. I got a problem with that because, you know, the black paper in Philadelphia is Philadelphia Tribune. The Philadelphia Daily News is not a black newspaper. And so even though the UNC website is wrong, they list the Philadelphia Daily News, but they say these newspapers were notable news sources created by the black community, not the Philadelphia Daily News, not to my knowledge. But I just, yeah, that rankles me. And the reason that's important, the reason, and the people who are watching and listening, I need them to understand that the reason this matters is because this happens a lot. What happens is what happened with black papers somehow doesn't matter. There was a book that won a Pulitzer Prize that was about the civil rights movement. And I have the book, Gene Roberts, former editor of Philadelphia newspaper, co-writer. I give them credit because what they lay out the history that it was the black press that was covering the civil rights movement. But then when it became unsafe for them, that was a writer and a photographer for a black paper who was severely beaten in Little Rock. And he later, he couldn't cover it, he couldn't work anymore. He later died from those injuries. Black reporters for black papers were being targeted by white vigilantes. And that's when white media came in. Time, Newsweek, New York Times. And I remember a few years ago, I was watching Meet the Press, and they were talking about the photo of the brutal photo of Emmett Till. And on Meet the Press, Doris Kearns Goodwin, hailed as this major historian, she credited the New York Times for putting that on the front page. And I immediately went to Twitter and said, oh, hell no. You are not going to give credit to the New York Times for putting that on the front page when it was Jet and the Chicago Defender that put it on the front page before white media did. So again, I appreciate that the Pulitzer Board recognizes the work of Chuck Stone, but you don't credit his reporting during the civil rights movement, but you don't say who he worked for. That to me is just as important or even more important than becoming the first black columnist for the Philadelphia Daily News.
I mean, erasure happens in lots of different ways, right? Erasure of our leaders, erasure of the organizations, erasure of our leadership, erasure of how we have made this country better and stronger and wiser. So that's why we have to be vigilant when we see folks having these gaps and filling them with their history and deleting our history, whether intentional or unintentional. They have to be checked because we now see how folks are literally trying to be, the erasure that's going on in this particular moment is very intentional. So once again, whether it's unintentional or intentional, it has to be corrected and it has to be addressed.
Yep, and we're going to call them out every single time. Scott had to go. Randy, thanks a bunch. Mustafa, thanks a bunch as well. I really appreciate it, folks. We're going to have the Crocket Chronicles for you tomorrow. There were 3 or 4 stories that we did not plan on talking about that we did, so that took up the time, so we'll have that tomorrow. Let me thank everybody for being on today's show. Great conversation. Folks, do me a favor. If you missed the show, be sure to share it. Share it with folks. And also, when we break apart our segments, share those as well. Go to our YouTube channel, go to Black Star Network app. You can all check it out. And if you want to support the work that we do, what matters is that the stories that we cover, critically important. Other folk ain't talking about it. We do. And so when you support this show, then you are supporting great journalism, but not just this show, but also our Black Star Network. And so if you want us to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. It's it right here. This is the QR code. Kill the music. I got something to do. Stripe QR code right here to give it via Cash App. Also, for credit cards, check and money orders, make them payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo's RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSmartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Of course, if you want to get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, get it at bookstores nationwide, online as well. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Also, be sure to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network swag. Get our merchandise. We got T-shirts, hoodies, wall art, mugs, and more. And we'll soon have our new design for our FAFO 2025 shirt. I'll let you know when we have that ready. Also, don't blame me. I voted for the Black Woman shirt as well. Go to rolandmartin.creator-spring.com or go to blackstarnetwork.com. QR code there as well. Also, support Fanbase. Download the app. If you want to invest, go to startengine.com/fanbase. All right, folks. So remember, I was going over all of our HBCU gear. And I had listed Savannah State as one of the places that I didn't have their gear. I did have, and actually I found it. That was a golf shirt. It was amongst all my golf shirts, and they sent me a hat. But Savannah State hit me up, and they sent a big old box of stuff. And so let me shout them out. First of all, this is a note that they sent. Hold on one second. Let's see here. On behalf of Savannah State and the entire Tiger family, it's my pleasure to share a small token of my appreciation with you. Enclosed, you'll find some SSU gear, a symbol of our Tiger pride and gratitude for your continued support of HBCUs and the important work you do in amplifying our stories. We are honored to have you as a friend of Savannah State and look forward to opportunities to engage with you in the future. Dr. Jermaine, okay, I can't make the last name. It's W-H-I, is it Worrell? Is it Worrell? Is it Jermaine Worrell? President. So Dr. Jermaine, I appreciate it. So we'll let y'all know. So first, let's see, what's this here? This is, I got a Savannah State tie. Okay, y'all, no ascot? Okay, I got a Savannah State tie. All right, so y'all know it gets hot. I play golf. So they have, these are called the cool towels. So these towels here, you actually dip them in the ice water and then you pop it, and then you place it, when you're playing golf, you actually place it around your neck and inside of your shirt. That keeps you cool. So they sent me a couple of these here. I appreciate that. Yo, so they sent me, let's see, 6 of these Go Tiger. They sent me 3 blue and 3, come on, give me another camera. Come on, go wide, come on. They sent me the blue and the orange, so I appreciate that. Let's see here, sent me some Savannah State shades, all right, so here we go. I got the Savannah State shades right here. I'm surprised y'all ain't got no orange shades, make it pop. All right, so let's see here. We got a Savannah State book, The History of Savannah State University. Tell them we are rising. Let's see here. See, y'all gonna make it hard on the rest of these people because y'all sent a lot of swag. Let's see here. I got a Savannah State water bottle right here. That's cool. Can't have enough water bottles. Let's see here. This HBCU Proud hat right here. So I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and do this here. So I'll take my cowboy hat off, and then we'll put the hat on. All right. Let's go ahead and put the hat on, and then let's see here. Y'all know I the bill gotta be straight, so I gotta bend that sucker. I can't stand these new hats with that big ass dinner plate brim. So this one here works right here, y'all. Let's see right here. Here is a Savannah State golf shirt. Yep, I'll be rocking that on a golf course. So y'all see that right here. Got that in white. They sent me a golf shirt here in gray. And then, of course, when the temperatures drop, I got this blue Savannah State hoodie right here. They sent me, got me a Savannah State lanyard. And then let's see here. Now we got the Savannah State crew neck right here as well. So, Dr. Jermaine, I appreciate that. And so y'all know my rule. I only wear HBCU gear of places I've been to, I've spoken at, I broadcast from, and I counted. Actually, I did a recount. So there are 107 HBCUs, and I've been I thought it was a 60. It was actually 57 or 58. So it's like 57, 58. Savannah State is one of those. So I look forward to going back. And you never know. Maybe we'll do the show from Savannah State one day. That'll be cool. Maybe we'll do the show Homecoming. Do a huge show, pack the joint out, have all the folks there. So yeah, we'll talk about that with Dr. Jermaine. All right, y'all. That's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. How? Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?